and problems, and how to extend the quality of life for your cherished companions. As a community advocate, I will also discuss important social issues that affect our city. I plan to showcase organizations and heroes who are doing amazing things to help others. Remember to tune in every Tuesday morning at 10, starting soon.
The Third City Podcast is a production of Third City Coalition. In our show, we examine case studies in urban development in Stockton and other cities like Stockton across the country, exploring their local and regional impacts. Individual efforts play a role in Third City development, and it starts with you.
My name is Josh, and you're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Welcome to Interfaith Voices. This is a new monthly program coordinated by the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Stockton Social Justice Committee. I'm Jeri Bigbee, and I'm the chair of that Social Justice Committee. Let me tell you the purpose and goal of our show. The purpose is to explore social justice concerns in Stockton and San Joaquin County from an inclusive, interfaith perspective. Our goal is to promote interfaith dialogue, understanding, and collaboration in addressing issues in our community. Today's topic is looking at interfaith efforts addressing homelessness, particularly the Family Promise program. I'm happy to welcome our two guests today, Tony Elopre, who is the chair of Family Promise San Joaquin County, and Jonathan Jacoby, recruitment team leader for Family Promise San Joaquin. So let's get started.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Nice to have you here. So I have a question for you. Tell us what Family Promise is about. Just give us a short overview.
So Family Promise is a national organization designed to basically prevent homelessness for families by involving congregations in the community and targeting the children, mainly targeting the children so that they don't get into a situation where they're homeless for a long period of time. So the organization has over 100 affiliates throughout the country and over 13 affiliates in California, with our neighboring affiliates being Modesto and Sacramento. Actually, they've been in operation for over 10 years. So we're starting ours up now. We aren't up and running, but we are in the process of doing that.
Great. So maybe let's back up a little bit. I'd like to know a little bit more about both of you. Could you share with us kind of your backgrounds and how you came to this work with this program?
Shall I go ahead?
Sure.
Well, I grew up in Stockton, and after high school, I left, and I had not been back for 50-some years. And I came a year and a half ago, decided to move back here, and joined Temple Israel, which is my home congregation, and was looking for some way of working in the community. And I had been involved on the East Coast with interfaith activities, not homelessness, but other issues. And so when I learned about a meeting last summer that was going to be talking about homeless issues, I thought, well, let's go see. And I was so impressed with what I heard there, from the man who came from the East Coast for national office and presented the idea of Family Promise. And I said, I want to be a part of this, and signed up to work on it, and then went back to my own congregation and found that people there are very interested in what we're doing. So this was a way of getting involved with the community and with my temple, and I'm looking forward to making it work.
Great. Tony?
So I'm new to the area relatively. I've been here now a little over 3 years. My wife, Rosalie Salcedo, she actually is a teacher at Lincoln High, but she grew up out here, and we ended up coming here after we were both done with our military service. Did 6 years active duty, then transitioned out, was a police officer for a little over a year for the city of Fremont. Then decided I needed to move on, and now I just so happened to have this opportunity to work with this group. And it became a really important issue for me while I actually was on patrol in Fremont, and became very aware of the transient situation there. And then living in Lathrop for the past couple of years and coming to Stockton for church and for school, we learned a lot about the issues that this city faces. And luckily, our congregation, the First Unitarian Church, has had a lot of different involvement in social justice type issues. And basically, through Rosemary Atkinson's suggestion, I ended up coming to the meetings and really started getting involved as a secretary at first, and then now currently heading the efforts in the chair position.
Mm-hmm. Tony, have you always been a Unitarian Universalist?
At heart, yes. But no, I was raised in a Catholic home. Mm-hmm. My mom and dad are in Virginia now, and we had Catholic churches because my dad was in the military as well. So all throughout my life, every military installation, we'd attend a Catholic church. But interestingly, on the installation, the church was often the congregation for multiple faiths. So at 12 o'clock, it was for the Catholics, and then they'd turn the cross around, and then it was for whichever Christian group was next, and then whatever other groups were followed by that. So, I kind of always had an eye open to interfaith dialogue, let's say that.
Excellent. Perfect.
And I have my own interfaith story because I was raised in Central Methodist Church in Stockton.
Really?
And in my 20s, I married a woman who's Jewish and converted, and that was almost 50 years ago. So I've had two journeys.
Indeed. Well, you're perfect for this work.
Right.
How about that? Okay, so let's get back to Family Promise. Give us an idea of where you are now in terms of establishing an affiliate here in San Joaquin County.
I think that's yours, Tony, to start it.
I'll start it off by saying where we are in the big picture is we can say we've been working on this issue basically since last summer. I would say in August around August we started meeting and having our the national effort became the local effort. So since then, we've developed our recruitment team, we've developed our communications team, and currently we're developing our fundraising team. And we have our 501c status being processed and our checking accounts opened, and now we're sort of at that stage where we have enough interest where we can really start thinking about grant writing and partnering with the other existing organizations here in the city and the greater county.
We were told, this is one of the real advantages to Family Promise, it being a national organization, is that there's a history and there's a blueprint to how to establish an affiliate, how to work, how to deal with problems as they come up. So we were told that the first step is to recruit congregations. We need, on paper, 13 host congregations. That means places that will house and shelter, feed families for a week at a time, 4 times a year, in order to cover the year's program. We also need support congregations who will provide volunteers and maybe meals. It depends on how we work that out. But we had to start by visiting congregations and talking about the program and getting commitments to do that.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you're up to right now.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of it. We started effectively in September, October, and found that it's slow going in that we have to find the right person to talk to in each congregation and make an appointment, get in to see them, and present the program. And then in almost all cases, with very few exceptions, it's then going to have to be a matter of coming back and talking to a board or a group of congregants several times. I have talked to the board at my temple now 3 times, and even though they are on board, they are being careful about making sure that this is something that the entire congregation can get behind. And so it's a multi-step process. And we are happy now that we have 4 congregations who have said that they will host. We have other places that we are fairly confident that will sign on once we get kind of through the whole process, and others who are interested in support. So I would say we're maybe halfway through. We've got to reach out to, we've talked to as many as 30 places already, and it's probably going to be that many again before we can feel comfortable. We have a goal of 6 or 7 host congregations by this summer, at which point we can say, okay, it's going to go, let's move ahead seriously with getting set up so we can operate.
Yeah. Having the support of the national entity, really, it gives us a lot of comfort in knowing what to expect and sort of how to plan. It gives a very strong framework, and it's a proven concept in a lot of places. And then also being able to go and visit Modesto, which I've been able to do, and speak with the people who are running the program in Modesto, and also in Sacramento. Those resources are pretty much what allows us to be, I feel like a lot of our success is because we just have that kind of support, and it makes the program, at least I think it's making it much easier than it would be. Because I think there are times, especially, that it's difficult and it's frustrating, and it seems like a huge burden. But as we look at sort of what has been done in the past by these other affiliates, it's comforting to see that we're doing fairly well. We're on track. Of course, we need to do more, but we're sticking to that plan, and it's gonna work out eventually. Yeah.
We were told right from the beginning it would be 18 to 24 months and could be longer. So it does give us confidence that we're doing well.
Good. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as leaders in this movement, tell me why you think homelessness is such a persistent issue and problem in our community.
Well, Tony, you've seen it on the street, huh?
Well, I think the incentives for dealing with the root cause are just not high enough, or at least they're not at the forefront. It takes sort of the visible homelessness for it to get onto the radar, I think, a lot for most of the government leaders, and that's not, I'm not pointing blame at them. I'm just saying that it's unfortunately one of those things that I think in the past and in some small communities you'll still see it's being taken care of at a community level, right? Where when a family, and I think it's still true in some areas here in the county, where if a family member is going through an issue, you sleep on a couch somewhere, or or where there are small churches, and we have met congregations that have had to house people who were in a housing situation where they didn't have housing, right? So the issue isn't, it's not a simple one. It's very complex. It's complicated by the economy. It's complicated by policy. It's complicated by housing supply. It also requires, I think, a lot of trained professionals to dedicate a lot of time to. Well, hopefully what we are doing is we're broadening that discussion, and we're getting the communities back into the picture by getting these congregations involved, which I think really are representatives of the community. So I don't know if I'm kind of going different directions there with that question.
That's
but
good.
Yeah.
Well, it is complex. We haven't really talked about how the program works and who it is addressed to serve. And when people talk about the homeless problem or homeless people, they generally think of those that they see out on the street or in the camps, who are the most visible and who are getting the most attention because not only do they need it, but they are in the public eye. We are focusing on kids and their families who often are invisible because they're not primarily on the streets, although they can be. But they are finding shelter with family or friends as much as they can. They're in automobiles. They may be in a program where they're in a motel. We just saw a video recently where a woman was describing what her life was like with, I think she had 3 kids. They would go to Walmart and buy candy and then go out on the streets to sell the candy to make enough money to get into the motel for the night. And so they weren't being a problem, but they really needed help. So what this program, Family Promise, sets up is to identify families. They'll be referred from agencies in Stockton, in the county, or from churches. They then will be vetted through a process of making sure that we're not dealing with drug and alcohol problems or legal issues that we can't have because we are putting up the families in people's congregations in their houses of worship. And so we have to be careful about that. At the same time, they are asked to make commitments to work on whatever problems they need to deal with in order to become able to move into housing again. So that could be jobs that they need. It could be education. It could just be budgeting matters of managing the money they have so that they can put it aside. While they're being sheltered in a church or the synagogue or a mosque, their money will be put aside in escrow that they would be paying for rent or for food, to a point where they have money for down payment for rental or down payment for a house, if that's possible. And then they need to show that they've actually been working on this commitment, and then they can get another 30 days of time. And nationally, we're told that within about 60 to 75 days, often the families, on an average, are able to move on to the next thing. And in Modesto, where I went once to visit and ask questions, they said many of their clients are only there for a short time because they are trying to get over a certain hump. They're trying to get their Section 8 voucher or some other way. They need help right now, but they're not going to be around for too long. So, but by saying that, we are dealing with probably a small slice of the homeless, and maybe the easiest ones, because we're taking the low-hanging fruit of those who do not have serious problems with mental health or drug addiction or something.
Wow, sounds great. Okay.
I'll just add that in terms of, I guess, the most challenging cases, we're not designed to deal with those who are chronically in the homeless situation. We are, however, we're on the preventative end of things, right. and by assisting those families, we're doing what we can, I think, and what volunteers are capable of doing, right? So I think in that way we're trying to deal with a very persistent issue, but I think more importantly, and going back to what's been said, the fact that we are engaging the community and bringing them into our own communities, into our own congregations, I think that's really the key in terms of opening the dialogue up and making it more personal for each individual who's involved. Because I think government and a lot of the organizations that exist here in the city, the Stockton Shelter, the Gospel Rescue, excellent programs that are doing great work that for some reason are, I feel like, seen as being apart from everyone's everyday life, right? Like not most people are necessarily going to work for those organizations or volunteer at those organizations. But if we bring them into your neighborhoods and we bring them into your congregation, it really becomes a conversation that you have to start facing and realizing that this is visible in more ways than you know, right?
That gets to my question, I think, of some folks might argue that dealing with this complex issue is the role of government, and that we should look to government as the primary intervener. So why are faith communities so involved and have historically been involved in dealing with this issue? Why is that?
It's our mission. I mean, everywhere we go to talk to whatever denomination, whatever Christian or Jewish or Muslim congregation we're talking to, they already have a sense of where they should be serving, and many of them are already serving, because that's part of their reason to exist and reason people come. And that's the reason when I was involved in my former congregation near Boston, that's what I primarily did, was to work on social justice. And obviously this is the Unitarian, we're here under the auspices of the Unitarian Church for the same reasons. And so we find a receptive audience, feeling that this is not only something that they should do, but can do, and in some cases are very open to offering a program that is kind of ready-made. They do not have to start from scratch and create it. And so it's a real advantage to come in and say, here's something you can get involved in, and without a lot of money or a lot of time spent, just getting up and running. So that works. We haven't talked too much about how this works, and part of what I do and my team does is to lay out the mechanics, primarily to assure people that we've thought through as many of the details as we can. Do you want me to say something about that? Because we say that the families are referred to Family Promise. The other pieces that are there are the services that are provided by Family Promise in the form of a day center where families will go during the day. They're housed overnight, sheltered at congregations, but in the morning they go to this day center, which we have yet to establish for San Joaquin County, where they can get showers, they can do laundry, they can find computers to work on job searches or education or whatever else they need. There will be caseworkers there, MSW, I shouldn't say plural, probably one plus a director who will work with them on their issues, whatever they're dealing with. Same time, the kids will go from there. That becomes their home, their address. The kids go from there to school, and parenthetically, we have learned that there are 2,000 children in schools in San Joaquin County who are homeless, who do not have a home address. We assume that there are also siblings who are not in school, and therefore the number is even higher. So the kids will have stability in that from the day center they will go to a school, and when they move week to week in there where they sleep, that will still be their school. They will not be moved around. Beyond that, that's where they get the resources to be able to get back on their feet. So we need to provide housing at congregations, food at congregations, and then a van that will take them from congregation to congregation, and daily to the day center, and the day center itself we need to set up, and the director of that center, of the program, and the social worker that will be working with them. So those are the pieces that are yet to come.
Good.
So on our part, it requires a lot of effort up front. But the idea would be that it would be very convenient, at once established, it'd be very convenient for people to get involved and to become part of the program, because what we're asking for would be something along the lines of 2 hours of volunteering at your congregation, or if you don't belong to a congregation, wherever you feel you want to affiliate with. And we do have members that work with us who aren't members of congregations. That should be put out there. But it really is bringing the issue to the community and realizing that this is something that they don't know is happening, but it is always happening in the city, that there is a need. There is a constant need for us to take care of these families.
And that's the link back to government, because the hope is that people who then know more about what the issues are, what the problem is, because they've heard the stories from the families who are in their church or synagogue, will be empowered to talk to their elected officials and their city council and say, this is a problem we've got to address more thoroughly than it's being right now.
Creating that link between understanding that the tent city didn't just pop up there overnight, that we see over there in front of St. Mary's. It didn't just happen. There was a long process that brought those people to that point. And it starts with when a situationally homeless family doesn't get any support, doesn't have the resources available, or don't qualify for the next whatever the government has to offer, but they're in between and they just need that extra couple months maybe, and we fill that gap. And we and then as you get to know those people, you realize, well, hey, that could be any one of us, really, if you think about, most of us, right? It could be most of us. The fact that these life events can drastically affect your finances in a way that put your home in jeopardy. That's not unknown. That's a very, especially we were coming off of the housing crisis, and we know this is real, and we need to start finding ways to connect people to the issue before it becomes the tent city. This is basically the idea. Yeah.
We have a person on our on the recruitment team who's also working with communications, who works for CalWorks, and her job is employment training for, as I gather it, largely homeless families, or a woman with 2 kids or something. She hears their stories, tries to help them as she can, but she says there really aren't services for those people. They do not fall under the guidelines of many of the programs that are out there. So she came very eagerly to us when she first heard about it. She says, this is what my people need. And it's been a good ally to have.
Let me ask you from a religious perspective, because this is an interfaith effort, How do you ensure that all beliefs, and non-believers, are respected, especially among the families that you serve?
Well, there are national guidelines for that. It did start out as the Interfaith Hospitality Network, so that has been a consideration since the very beginnings of this organization, which was like 1986. Right. Mm-hmm. Bottom line is, it's not a tool for proselytizing. We're not going out to recruit members into churches. That's the bottom line. And if you keep that in mind, then I guess the rest of your actions follow. We don't say you can't have prayer with those who are willing to have prayer, but we keep a strong focus on the fact that we're providing a community service. And just because it's being hosted by congregations doesn't require any sort of religious affiliation. I think that's a big, we're using kind of what's available through these congregations, but we're not making any sort of demands of those people who are receiving the service. So,
and we've been told that our volunteers will be trained by national. They will have somebody on the ground here who will talk to people directly about how you deal with people, give them a sense of dignity and inclusion and hospitality, but they are not, the point is not to try to proselytize or make anybody feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And in fact, one of the things that has interested members of my congregation is to be able to partner with a church and get to know another faith community in Stockton, as well as being in touch with the homeless community.
And recently, Jonathan, he had a contact from a Manteca Islamic Center in Manteca. Is that correct? And in addition, if anyone here is from the Sikh community, we're also very interested in partnering with you all. We've been out there just to make introductions, but we'll definitely be working with anyone and everyone who's interested in being part of it. Yeah,
and I think the Buddhist temple has already told us that they would like to. I think this is fair to say, like to support the effort. They haven't signed on officially, but so I don't want to be too premature about that. But almost everywhere we've gone, they've said sounds great. We'll see what we can do. Or in some cases, we don't have space here. We're too limited for that. But maybe we can provide volunteers. Mm-hmm. Or conversely, we have a huge building and our congregation has gotten smaller. So we can help in one way, but not the other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So looking forward, what do you need to make this happen? What are the next steps? What can the community do to support this effort?
I keep saying we need more people involved, and that's a piece of it. That's not the whole story. I'll let Tony.
I think it starts there. It definitely starts there. We have to have the dialogue continue, first of all, and with the purpose of hopefully gaining allies. And by that, if you're interested in basically contributing to just maybe you have thoughts about how we should go forward. The cool thing about having the national entity above us, we have a lot of guidance, but then being a local group, we have a lot of freedom to how we pursue our goals. So we have done things based off of the recommendations of our members. And it is that kind of group where we're working forward based off of a lot of the experience that they bring. So because of that, you can make a pretty large impact if you're interested. If you're not really keen on being this sort of developmental entity, then there are opportunities in the future where you can volunteer through your congregation or support congregation. But right now, we are definitely trying to find out more congregations just to present the program to. So that we can explain it in detail and answer all the questions, which I'm sure there are plenty of for those who are, hearing about this for the first time. And give you material so that you can do your own research about this program. So just continuing the dialogue, getting more interest out there, spreading the word, coming to the meetings. On March 1st, we have a meeting every month. So we're very consistently coming together to welcome people who are new to the program or are interested, newly interested. And then, if you come to the meeting and you find yourself wanting to know more, wanting to do more, we're happy to take you on and let you loose.
I think I said earlier that we contact say a church, and we try to talk to the senior pastor or something. And that sometimes is difficult to do without some kind of an introduction. So that we found it very helpful if we know somebody, if somebody's come forward from that congregation and can say, here's who you need to talk to, or let me put in a word before you call, in order to kind of clear the way. And that's been very helpful. And eventually, we will need lots of people who are in a congregation participating and supporting it from the inside. So as much as we get agreement from the clergy or from a board or a council, that's only the step in to start, and then there's going to have to be organization within that congregation to make it work as it goes on. And so, as I say, there's going to be a lot of people involved.
And again, if you think about what we're asking, the volunteering really is sitting down, getting to know a family who is in a situation where they're transitioning and they're looking for a home to live in, and having 2 hours of your day dedicated to just sharing that meal or preparing that meal, and kind of just becoming more aware of this reality. I think that's not much to ask, and it makes it, I think, people wonder, like, how can I help? Well, that really will become how you help, just spending time with people in need.
And 4 times a year. Again, the whole program is worked out very nicely to anticipate questions about how much are you asking me to do, and how much time and energy and money is this going to take? And you can say, kind of put in what you can, and it's minimal, and it's only episodic in the congregation. So it makes it easier to take on and conceive of as being something that an individual can do.
Everyone just gets one bite of that elephant, and it goes away. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Great. Anything else you'd like to add, or how can people get in touch with you?
You have the number down?
so we are meeting every month. That's probably the best way to come meet us, have their face-to-face, and that way, if you come to the meeting, you sign in, and typically we get your email from that sign-in, and we get your contact information, and then from there, you'll be on the listserv. Other ways you could be asked to be added, we have our own email, which isn't here in front of me, but we'll give you that information you can post it online. Okay. But we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram. So we're getting our social media. We're still up. We're still developing it all. So it might not be in its final phases yet, but we're out there. And so if you Google us, I'm sure you'll find something. But come to the meetings we're having at First Presbyterian on East Vine Street. All right. And we've been going there every first Thursday of the month. So you'll probably catch us.
7 o'clock, 7:30?
7 o'clock.
7
so
o'clock
March
in the
1st,
evening. Okay.
We should give a thanks to First Presbyterian, because they've been very generous with the use of their building for meetings.
Huge thanks. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. And it's a great opportunity. It really is. I'm happy and proud to be working with the people that I work with. Just a variety of experience from all walks of life. I mean, we have former attorneys, current attorneys. We have people who've really been a part of this issue for a long time, like we mentioned Gloria. And we're going to start building more and more relationships with people who are working towards the same cause, and we're going to make sure that we're working very closely alongside those who are already here. We're not trying to start anything new, completely new. We're trying to make sure that we work well with what exists. So look for us. We'll be out there. Great. Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you both. I think this has been a great conversation, and it really sounds like this may be one of the new initiatives that exactly what our community needs to address the problem of homelessness, particularly from a preventive, early intervention perspective. So thank you again for joining us. We'll be anxious to hear how your good work continues. And thank you also to our listeners for joining us for our first program, and I hope you'll join us in our future programs as we talk more about interfaith efforts related to social justice in our community.
Thank you, Jeri.
Thank you so much.